Hey Dynasty and Redraft Fantasy Football fanatics! Are you looking for a new, exciting league? Come check out Masters Fantasy Football Leagues, home to over 450 Dynasty leagues and even more redraft leagues. Masters Fantasy Football Leagues has the league for you. All leagues have real-time scoring updates, trading, message, and smack boards, and our 12-team head-to-head PPR with blind bidding for waivers. Visit Masters Fantasy Football Leagues at mastersfantasyfootballleagues.com. Masters Fantasy Football Leagues, where our goal is to exceed your expectations.
Welcome to the Dynasty Trade Calculator Podcast, a show dedicated to Dynasty Fantasy Football trades and player values. With your hosts, John Paul Hurley, Izzy Elkaffas, and Nick Whalen.
Welcome to the DTC Podcast. This is episode 97. Happy to have you guys listening to us this week. Joining me this week is my fabulous co-host, the wonderfully talented Nick Whalen. What is up, Nick?
2 weeks in a row. I feel jacked up, man.
Back to back AAU national champions.
Wow. Can you make it 3 in a row? Because I want to be like Jordan.
You want to be just like Jordan, yeah. You want to hold up those threes.
Who doesn't want to be like Mike?
I want to be like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Oh, man. What a great tune.
Yeah, it just takes you back, man.
Moeser, you know what to do, ready? We're gonna throw on the if I could be like Mike. Like Mike, I wanna be like Mike. Moeser probably likes that, man. They probably played it on the radio every morning where he lives. So he's probably used to it. He knows exactly where to get it. Also joining me this week is the lovely and talented John Paul Hurley. That's me, actually. I'm the host. I'm lovely and I'm talented. That's me.
Still waiting.
But also joining me, Izzy Elkaffas, a.k.a. Pharaoh of Fantasy. What is up, Izzy?
How are you doing, John?
Oh, I'm wonderful.
Good.
I'm splendid. I'm so good, I should probably invent like a new word for it. I'm a splendorful. Splendid and wonderful. How about that?
That's beautiful. As long as you get away from phenomenal, I'm good. Which you've done a really good job of doing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I just got done shoveling like 15 inches of snow off my driveway, so I'm splendorful.
Yeah, are you guys ready to talk about the combine? You know, I mean, here we are, February, up here in the Midwest.
Seriously, What is going on? It's just wild. Luckily my neighbor let me borrow his snowblower, so it was like at the end of my shoveling, but ended up working out good.
Yeah,
you don't know what a snowblower is?
All respect gone.
Come on, man.
It's gone.
15 inches of wet white snow.
You wanted to get in better shape. Come on.
Izzy, did you shovel your driveway? Listen to this, Nick.
I have an association. By the time that stuff hit the ground, it was already shoveled. They were just waiting.
How does one go about acquiring this association of yours?
You have to pay. You don't really have a choice.
All right, well, I'll call them up and I'll pay them. See if they drive all the way out here.
See.
Anyway, this week we're going to talk about Dez Bryant. We're also going to talk about rookie tight ends, and we've got some Twitter trades in the hopper ready to cover. So let's get started. What do you guys think?
Let's do it, man. I'm excited. I mean, Dez, this is big stuff, right? We kind of assumed this, but I didn't know it was going to happen. It's like one of those things like, sure, they're going to get rid of him.
Yeah. Yeah, Izzy, do you want to take the honors on this? What happened to Dez last week?
He gone.
There it is. I had to throw that out there for the listeners that are unable to see our Google Hangout session. Whalen cracks up every single time that Izzy does that. So got to get a few more of those in this podcast just so I can entertain myself.
I mean, it's his shtick, right? Like if there's anything that Izzy says the most, it's he gone.
That's true. Right after he just got done complaining about me saying phenomenal too much.
Right. Exactly.
Amazing. So let's start. So Dez Bryant, cut by the Dallas Cowboys, released is probably a little more PR way to say it. Looking at NFC East teams, so I want to start with Whale on this one. So he said he exclusively wants to stay with NFC East, followed by hundreds of kind of abrasive posts, I would say. Like, he's not happy about it. It's kind of hurting his value a little bit. But what do you think about Dez Bryant leaving? And then also, what do you think about some of the teams, some of the landing spots that he's targeting?
I mean, what Dez wants and what's going to happen to Dez are two very different things at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting is they talked about the kind of the comparison between Dez and Randy Moss at this part in his career. And this was the same year that Moss had the down year in Oakland and everyone thought he was done and he got traded to New England and kind of rejuvenated his career. But I mean, I don't think the Eagles take him on. They don't want that chemistry to get all affected with him. I don't see the Giants adding another. They're already trying to get rid of OBJ, maybe not, and then adding Dez to that. I mean, I think overall, if you wanted to bring in Dez and make a run with Eli, I get it. That makes sense in terms of that part. But man, that's a lot of personality at wide receiver. I mean, I don't know that you get more than that. And then I can't see Dez with the team in Washington because, I mean, him and Josh Norman would just get in a fight every day of practice. So I don't see it happening. I see Dez going maybe not to a clear playoff team, but to a team that like might be on the brink, maybe someone like Carolina who desperately needs a guy that they can throw it up to size-wise. It's kind of what Cam does. I mean, that makes sense to me, but I cannot see him going to the NFC East.
They already got Torrey Smith, bro.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Can you cut that out of the pod, Mo?
Yep, you will. So Izzy, this is more of a follow-up question kind of heading your direction. So Dez Bryant leaving, do you think this is probably good for his value? I did a little bit of research for the podcast. I was discussing with some people on Twitter also. The Dallas Cowboys ranked 29th in pass attempts in 2016 and 26th in 2017. Can he go anywhere but up? Like, is this kind of like the direction that he's going almost regardless of where he lands?
No, he's going to go down. He had 132 targets last year.
Yep.
He's not getting 132 targets wherever he goes. So, I mean, will his efficiency go up? Yeah, perhaps. I mean, he had 69 catches. So what is that? 52%? Rough math there. So I don't know. I mean, he would need to even match what he did last year. He would need like 120 targets and just a sub 60 catch rate, which would still be an okay catch rate for him for his career. But I just don't know how he can outdo what he did in terms of targets last year. I mean, do you guys see him getting any more than that?
So I'm gonna drill into this a little bit more. Like I said, I did a little bit of research. And in 2014, he had 136 targets from Tony Romo. So for every like 2 Dak targets equals 1 Tony Romo target, just because of the quality of the ball that's being thrown to him. And I'm wondering if that might be the case if he gets one of these good quarterbacks, gets on a good team. Just to give you some more information, so about the same targets in 2014 as 2017. But in 2014, he had 88 catches, coincidentally. 2017, he only had 69 catches, giggity. In 2014, 1,300 yards and 16 touchdowns, and last year was 806. So same targets, but much higher quality balls coming his way. Again, I'm not trying to make this sexual.
Yeah, I will say, and this is something that we've talked about quite a bit. Dez Bryant in his career, in order for him to have had, he's had 2 really good, I'd say 3 really good years back to back to back, and there might have been one in between, but I think 3 really good years
altogether. You're right.
Yeah. Other than that, he's been extremely disappointing for a guy that came in the league at 22, who is now going on year 30. So he's got 8 years under his belt. So you're talking about 3 out of 8 years where he's had 1,000-yard production, and he's touchdown dependent, which he's never had close to 100 receptions, or maybe close, but he hasn't had 100 receptions. So he's going to be touchdown dependent. Now, in 2015, he played 9 games with Tony Romo, and when I looked this up, his catch rate was 43%. So he's had and then the following year it was in the 50s. So he's had 3 years in a row with really, really poor catch rate production. So I look at this and say, this is probably just Dez pulling a Hakeem Nicks on us, and we're not really realizing it until it's too late. Do I have some, not as bad as Hakeem Nicks, where he's completely unplayable, but not to the point where his expectation is that wide receiver 1. So we need to temper expectations. Dez Bryant is going to be at best a wide receiver 2 moving forward, and he's going to need 130 receptions to do that. 130 targets to do that.
Again, can we drill down into your catch rate a little bit more too? So looking back to his rookie year, which, he only played 12 games. He had 45 catches, 500 or 600 yards. Catch rate was 62%, and this is all Tony Romo.
Okay.
2011, catch rate 61%, 2012, 67%, 2013, 59, 65% in 2014. And then the year you're talking about where he was sub 50%, he only played 9 games, 43% catch rate.
Yeah, it's an average, not a total, so it doesn't matter how many games he plays, but go ahead.
Yep. 13. And I mean, I'm just saying he didn't get a chance to change his average because his career average going into that was in the 60s. So he didn't get a chance to, redeem himself. Anyway, 2016 was 52%. 2017 was 52%. So I think that, again, I'm going back to the quarterback play. And I'm wondering, like, I think Dak's rookie year, he actually had a reasonably good deep ball. But I'm just wondering if, like, Dez Bryant's over the middle targets were probably not as high quality as his Tony Romo ones, because he's proven that, I think, over the last couple of years.
Well, and then catch rate's just targets based on receptions. I mean, it doesn't mean that they're catchable either. But I mean, Izzy,
exactly.
you want to look at 2016. He only played in 13 games. He had 796 yards, 3 games, possibly get 200 yards, very likely. So you're talking about like that 1,000-yard trajectory. That's just 2 years ago. When he had 8 touchdowns.
Very likely. That seems a bit aggressive.
To get 200 yards in 3 games?
I would call it probable. I don't think it...
Probable, yeah. Okay. So for a guy that... if he had 800 yards, he's probably at 60 yards per game. So 3 games, 180. He's a little shy.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that he was injured during a game. Yeah, he was injured during a game. He was out in the first quarter. He had like 1 target that game. So it's 4 games.
Okay.
8 touchdowns and he averaged 15.9 yards per reception. So, I mean, so right there, that's 2 years ago where he's actually had a pretty solid year. And last year, there was lots of ups and downs, lots of drama. And again, hurt a lot in 2015. So really, when you want to look at like super disappointment, I know there's a quarterback change and there's chemistry, things like that. There's only been one of those years where I think it's been like epically disappointing. Now, again, it's not great. Yeah. But the whole point of this is, should we buy Dez Bryant? Is there hope for him in the future? And has he completely lost it? Now, if you guys want to say that he completely lost it and he can't rebound from that, then we need to start thinking about like what is this age where receivers are just going to like just die? Because right in this age range is AJ Green, is Julio, is a bunch of these guys,
Antonio,
that Brown, etc. And some of them have had disappointments here too, injuries. Julio doesn't get touchdowns, things like that. So it's something to think about. I mean, is there any hope with Dez? I mean, we keep hearing about him going to Houston. I don't know what I think about that landing spot, by the way, but something else to talk about. But is there any hope? And what is the price? JP, you said you did some research. What can you buy Dez Bryant for right now?
So on the calculator on Dynasty Trade Calculator.com, he's currently sitting dead even with a 108. So I'll let Izzy answer the question for value. Izzy, are you buying, selling for that?
I would be selling at 108. I think where I'd be comfortable buying Dez is right around 112 to 203. I think 108 is too high for him personally. Even if he does rebound, I know in my leagues it'll be difficult to trade him. So he's kind of, you're buying him and holding him for the next few years. And we don't know if like we had the conversation about last week, I think, Nick, is there really aren't that many great receiver landing spots. So like you're talking about, what happens if he goes to Houston? He gone.
What about San Francisco?
San Fran, okay, that's a decent one. He's got Russell Pierre and McKinnon, the new McKinnon for targets. He's got a Battle Goodwin for targets. So I think that'd probably be his best landing spot.
I got another one for that ass.
Okay, so give me another one for that ass.
This is a very Bill Belichick-y thing to do, and if we're going to compare Dez Bryant to Randy Moss, we might as well just say New England. No, because there's some openings on that team now.
Fine, send him over there. I still don't think there's enough for him to get 130 targets.
It feels like, the reason I'm saying it's a Belichick-y thing to do is it feels like they could probably bring him in, pepper him with Brandon Cooks targets, like 110 or 116, whatever it was, and try to turn him then.
Okay, well, let's be realistic with the teams that are actually interested in him so we can have a conversation on what might actually happen, right? So
okay,
it sounds
so let's say Redskins.
So it's Bills? No, it's not even Redskins. So Schefter reported that it's Bills, Ravens, Cardinals, Packers.
Okay.
Do you see him getting 130 targets in any of those places?
Well, how many targets opened up in Green Bay with Jordy leaving?
Not 130. Devontae Adams is the number one, right?
I mean, Ravens maybe. I mean, what else? I mean,
Crabtree.
They've got Crabtree, and that's it.
Would it be a stretch to say that Crabtree might be better at this point in their careers than Dez Bryant? Would it be a stretch? Do we know?
I don't think it's a stretch.
Okay, so
and just circling back really quickly too, 2016 Jordy Nelson 152 targets, 2014 Jordy Nelson 151 targets. So
yeah, but now we got Devontae Adams. Jordy was the wide receiver 1. Des Bryant will be the wide receiver 2 at best. Right?
All right.
Would you agree? I mean, are we going to disagree on that?
I'm just saying there's a lot of targets to go around in Green Bay.
Is there, though?
Yeah.
Honestly, is there? I mean, with Cobb there, with Devonta Adams there, Des Bryant, can Aaron Rodgers support all 3 of those players to make them anything more? I mean, I just don't see him getting 130 targets in Green Bay. Now, his efficiency will go up.
Well, here's the thing is you're worried about targets. And when we talk about Green Bay is the one place that you do not have to worry about targets to get a fantasy productive wide receiver. We've seen this year in and year out. James Jones got humongous numbers on low targets. Jordy Nelson that first year got huge numbers on minimal. I mean, there were double-digit touchdown years with only double-digit target numbers there in Green Bay. And I mean, there's many spots I think that he could land. I think part of it is this going to be a motivation for Dez to resurrect his career? And was it him? Did he fall off? Or is it the foot? You know, there's multiple things there. When we're talking about the price wise, I mean, I think 108 is probably a little bit too high, honestly. I mean, I've had Dez shares and nobody will buy him. I actually just got an offer of a 2nd round Devy pick straight up for him in a league that we have a 4-round Devy draft every year. That's not even close for me anyways. I'm going to keep Dez for that. But I've heard he's only worth a 2nd round rookie pick. One person told me a 3rd. So
wow.
I think that people are very, very down on him. And honestly, for what Dez is and what he was last year, I won a title with Dez and he was my wide receiver 3 or 4. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, I know it's what have you done for me lately? But when you kind of look at it in the whole picture, I think I'd be buying Dez. I'd buy him for a mid to late 2nd.
Yeah, I can't imagine people are selling for that though. But wow, if you're saying you're seeing it.
That's what I've seen. What have you guys seen?
I haven't actually seen any of my leagues where Dez has been moved.
Yeah, I'm a Dez owner in one of my like 6 leagues, and I'm just going to hold on to him. It's not going to do me any good to sell him right now.
But let me tell you this, okay? We always talk about like these good trades that we have. This is probably my worst dynasty trade ever in one of my Devy leagues. To kind of get over the hump, I traded away all of this for Dez, and this was going into 2015, like thinking it's going to help me out. Brandon Cooks, Geis, and then it was 3 top 6 Devy picks, which I think of those, it turned out to be like the James Washingtons, the Deion Canes, those types of players. Yeah,
and that's what his price was in 2015. It sounds despicable now, but it's very difficult to put a hindsight lens on things like that.
That's not good. So I'll wrap this part up with looking at the Baltimore Ravens quick. And then we can even talk about Green Bay. So I went back and looked at 2015 Green Bay while you guys were talking. Randall Cobb led the team in targets with 129. His receptions were 79. And Randall Cobb works primarily around the line of scrimmage, short to intermediate, correct? His yards per reception, 10.5. His catch rate, 61%. That's with Aaron Rodgers. So 129 targets, 79 receptions, 829 yards, 6 touchdowns. James Jones that year was 99 targets, 50 receptions, 50% catch rate, and he was used down the field, 17.8 yards per reception. So looking at that year, for instance, I mean, is Aaron Rodgers really making these guys that much more efficient?
How many touchdowns did he have?
Who? James Jones?
He had like 10.
James Jones had 8.
8 that year. He had one year he had a ton though, right?
Yeah, it was 2012, 2013.
No, that's right. That's right.
So Baltimore Ravens. I'm looking at Baltimore Ravens, and I see last year with the GOAT, Joe Flacco, 92 targets was the high with Mike Wallace. He played 15 games. 52 receptions, 748 yards, 4 touchdowns, 56.5% catch rate. So if we're looking at those two being the 2 best landing spots, Green Bay and Baltimore, they have Mike Crabtree. They bring in Des Bryant. Is he going to be able to get a significant target share there? I don't know. I don't think so. Based on last year's production, pretty spread out with Jeremy Maclin, Ben Watson, who's still there. So Mike Wallace, 92 targets, 52 receptions as the lead guy there. And if that's Des, fine. Go ahead. Take your 92 targets. He's not going to hit these big numbers. And then you look at the Green Bay Packers who spread the ball around. So, yes, he doesn't need to get 130 targets in Green Bay. That's the perception, but the reality is even if he gets 110, is he really going to have a 60, 70% catch rate? And is that enough? I don't know. The whole point is, and this is kind of what Hurley was asking, is his needle going to move up if he leaves Dallas? I don't think so. I think the perception will be if he goes to Green Bay that his needle will move up, and that's a perfect opportunity to sell. If he goes anywhere else, I don't think his needle moves up. And the 49ers, Hurley was a good landing spot, but they're not even in the running from what we see. It's the Bills, who we agree is a horrible landing spot for production.
Mm-hmm.
The Cardinals, I don't think they can sustain 2 receivers. So that's not good. Baltimore seems juicy. Green Bay seems juicy, but they just might be, kind of a dud there. So I would say no matter where he goes, you try to move him. If you can get him for that late second that Nick was talking about, I would buy at that point. But there's just too many red flags between landing spot and his actual capability of not only staying healthy, but if he's still the player he was. We don't know that. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy. We don't know if the player that he's been in the past. And then now we're looking at a target reduction. Just too many red flags to invest in Dez Bryant. So I guess I talked myself out of 112 to 203. I probably wouldn't be buying anything at a first round pick, and we're talking mid-second to what Nick was saying. I think he's absolutely right.
Right. So just to clarify, so yeah, it was 2012. James Jones had 14 touchdowns on 98 targets in Green Bay. There are multiple years where Rodgers has had supported multiple players with double-digit touchdowns. And they got Graham there. I honestly, it makes sense for them to get him because they need someone opposite there just to help. But they need a fast guy. They don't have a fast guy. So anyway, to move away from Dez, let's talk about Dallas for a second and how that's going to affect things, because that's a big piece gone. Witten is a dad race walker at this point, right? And you have Cole Beasley and Switzer and
Noah Brown.
Yeah, I guess Noah Brown. So, that's a hole for maybe my boy Cortland Sutton, maybe another wide receiver. What and how does this affect the rest of the offense? Does it help them? Does it make things worse for Zeke? Because again, not only is Dez, he commands attention no matter, I guess, how productive he is, but he's a good blocker too.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a down the field, second level guy that Zeke is going to miss. Good point. Izzy, what do you think?
I will say Nick is absolutely right that this potentially hurts Zeke quite a bit. Even Hurley and I were on the Dak is going to regress quite a bit in year 2. And I don't think Dak, or actually I know Dak cannot carry that offense passing the ball without Dez Bryant there and without a veteran piece that's proven. Zeke is going to see stacked boxes until Dak can prove that he can carry a passing game. And I don't think he can. So Zeke is in for a world of hurt. His receptions are going to go up. He might see a David Johnson type season where he's just going to get a ton of receptions, but
until he hurts his wrist.
I won't tell you, but I'm thinking more of what David Johnson is probably going to go through this year, where
I gotcha.
He's going to have a tough time running the football, so his efficiency is going to come down. But he might be I think Zeke and David Johnson, I will go and say they might be sub 4 yards per carry guys this year. So if you're looking for volume on the ground, it's not going to happen. But I think both of them should have 100 reception potential this year. The way that their rosters are assembled, that's the bold side. I honestly think Zeke will probably be at 90, and I can see David Johnson hitting 100. And that's my bold take.
Izzy, come on now.
That's my bold take. You can't. You don't like it? You got check down Charlie with Sam Bradford, who is going to pepper.
No, we're talking about Zeke. You can talk about DJ all you want. Zeke.
Who is going to catch passes? Honestly.
His career high is 32 in his rookie year. He had 26 last year. Now you're talking 90?
They have to use him.
Well, Dallas is in line to draft a satellite back, so that's who's going to be catching passes.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
If they do that changes things. But if they go in and they just draft a rookie wide receiver, you were trying to tell me that Noah Brown, Terrence Williams, Jason
Witten, Cole
Witten.
Beasley. No, Izzy, what I'm telling you.
Where? So if he throws the ball 540 times, you're trying to tell me one of those receivers is going to catch or get 100 targets, 120 targets?
What I'm trying to tell you is that Dak Prescott's been the quarterback for Dallas the last 2 seasons. In the last 2 seasons, Zeke Elliott has had 32 and 26 receptions.
That's going to have to change.
No,
that's why it's bold.
You're tripling what Dak. If Dak's a check down quarterback, it would already be in the works. But he's not a check down quarterback.
Instead of 2 receptions a game, I can see Zeke getting up to 6. Yes, and they're going to have unless like I said, unless they make a.
You're going against 2 years of data just because
there's nothing there.
A guy that you hated, by the way.
There's nothing there. They have nothing. They have no weapons. They're going to have to get creative. If they go into this season with Zeke catching less than 50 passes, they're going to get annihilated, absolutely annihilated.
You know what they could do? Dez is a free agent. They could pick him up.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Nick, what is a reasonable number?
A reasonable number for Zeke?
For you. And yeah, reasonable number because I went bold at 90. So what is a reasonable number? Because we might be closer than we actually think.
I think the ceiling's 50, 60.
Yeah, see, I think a reasonable number is 60, a bold number is 90.
90 is unbelievable.
It is, but that's why it's bold, Nick. That's why I didn't say 45. That's why it's 90.
I'll say 48. Three a game, 48.
That's not not enough.
I mean, think of it. You're tripling a number, by the way. I hope listeners realize you're tripling a number.
I'm not, this isn't my expectation. This is my bold prediction. My expectation is at least 60.
And here's the other thing. Can we talk about Zeke Elliott just for 1 minute? And year 1 and year 2, you're talking about being a sub 4 yards per carry guy. He was 4.1 last season.
Yeah.
Now you lose Dez, and that whole offense has no confidence right now. You lose Dez. Witten's a year older.
Line is a year older.
Yeah, and they weren't as good last year either. The line wasn't. Dak doesn't have the confidence. I mean, I know, here's the funny thing is that I recently saw some people talking about how Zeke was a better prospect coming out than Barkley. And I'm like, whoa. Like, I think people are so clouded by that 2016 Zeke Elliott with that great offensive line, how well he did. He's a good football player, but he's not like a perfect, like the best generational running back prospect. He's a good prospect, but he's not a phenomenal athlete. He's a really good football player. You know what I mean? But that was coming out. But now he kind of got a little lazy, right? He was a little heavier last year. I'm not sure how motivated he is. He had the off the field stuff. The line's not as great. So, if that 2016 doesn't happen, do we still think that Zeke Elliott was this great prospect?
I mean, I think that he still shows the ability to be an elite prospect. I don't know if he...
that's a big difference. Like if 2017 happened in 2016, where he averaged 4.1 yards per carry, it just wasn't... And again, he would get more carries because I know he's suspended last year. But, I mean, if that happened, I don't think people would be as gaga about it,
Yeah, I just think that he did enough to live up to the expectation of his draft stock, right? Or his draft position. So for me, he did enough coming out to say, this guy's the real deal. Now, if you're talking about is he amongst the elite of the elites and could he be an historic back? I agree with you there. I don't think he is, but I think he can be a very good,
right? Yep,
a notch below elite type running back. I think we agree with that.
Yep.
So, and I still think that they're going to, regardless, this year it's an efficiency thing. And people say, well, why does yards per carry matter? In fantasy football, it kind of does, because the lower yards per carry, the more carries you're going to need to get to sustain these numbers that people expect. As the numbers increase with carries, the chances of getting hurt also compound as well. So if you are concerned about a player staying healthy for a full 16 games, you want their efficiency to be up because that's just potentially less touches. If they're just grinding out games, that's going to hinder their ability to stay healthy. So for Zeke...
And converting first downs and things like that, which helps you get more carries the next set of downs. Yeah. And the other thing is this, Izzy, and so, I know that you just put out this big number for receptions, but per the conversation we had last week, if you want to be an elite, sustained, consistent, elite fantasy football running back, you need to have 50 plus receptions per year. That's kind of the status quo right now. And he just doesn't have that. Now, again, I think I like his hands. I think he's fine in the hands department, but this is still speaking to everyone that thinks it's just easy to pound out 40, 50, 60 receptions. Like everyone can get that. Zeke Elliott here has the hands, right? And that capability in the receiving game, yet he had 32 and 26 the last 2 years. So don't go thinking that everybody can be this awesome receiving back. It's just not out there. And if you don't have that supporting it, as you're saying with the efficiency with the yards per carry, because the receptions in PPR help carry those running backs. And if you don't have the yards per carry to get the next set of downs, it's not going to help your fantasy outlook.
Right. Well, with Zeke, it's not ability. It's how they're
usage.
But
that's part of it too. We don't know how people are going to get used.
Right. And I just expect them to then turn to their best player, their best playmaker in the receiving game. The one thing I will say about Zeke, which is very interesting, I don't think many people know this. Zeke, do you know how many touchdown receptions Zeke had at Ohio State? I saw this last year and I was very surprised.
0.
Close. He had one touchdown recepon. And he didn't, and I can't remember what it was, but I think he had like 50 or 60 total receptions. He only converted one into a touchdown.
I have one more question here. I know this is brutal because this is like turned into a complete Dallas Cowboys and Dez podcast. Is there anybody on Dallas right now that we should buy that you guys think would be a sneaky buy and they could just really jump up with value?
Go ahead, Hurley.
Well, I know what Riley Bymaster of DTC would say. He would say Noah Brown for sure. He's been all about him, so he's kind of like planted his flag in Noah Brown. I don't know enough about Noah Brown to do that, and I would say that my answer is no. I don't have anybody that I would buy on Dallas right now that's sneaky. I don't have anybody. Not one.
Allen Hurns.
Yeah, Allen Hurns, that's a good point. You kind of forget about him pretty easily.
Yeah, Allen Hurns has... So Noah Brown is the unknown, right? That's the potential there. Especially if they're going to draft somebody, but if they don't draft that player in the first couple of rounds, they're likely getting a developmental receiver, which a lot of them are, but I'm talking multiple season type developmental. So you look at this and say Noah Brown has the most probably potential just because we kind of know what Allen Hurns is. It's a 1,000-yard receiver in the past with Jacksonville, but he has the build to be an alpha, whereas Hurns he has the ability to be just like kind of a wide receiver too. Now, I don't know if Noah Brown's upside is wide receiver 1, but he's definitely has the build to be that red zone weapon and to lead the team in targets, where I don't know if you can be successful giving the ball to Allen Hurns 120, 130 times. So Noah Brown's going to have to step up if the Dallas Cowboys have any shot. But if I'm buying somebody, and now that kind of Noah Brown's picking up steam, Allen Hurns might be the guy that I try to steal off a team just because I've seen it in the past, and it's a low risk, medium reward.
I have one that's a free guy. A free guy. These are the ones that we want at this point in the year. You know what I mean?
Switzer.
Like no one's even thinking about him. Waiver wire guy. A guy that I liked coming out. He's bounced around a little bit, but he's got a lot of potential. KD Cannon is on the Dallas Cowboys roster. I think he is very talented. I think that he has ability. And when you look at that whole wide receiver core, I think he has the actual most potential. So that's a guy I think that if you can stash for free, that's a good gamble right now. Number 81.
I'd be surprised if he makes it off the practice squad based on how many times he's bounced around.
If it's free, I'd rather take a gamble on him than Noah Brown. Sorry, Riley.
Okay, so Whalen, can I go off the script a little bit to answer your question? I've got a little bit more of a refined answer. So and this is like kind of a stretch, obviously, but
Rico Gathers, you're one of those. By the way, they have all Baylor players, by the way. KD Cannon's there, Terrence Williams there, Gathers is there. I mean, it's basically the Baylor Bears are the Dallas Cowboys.
Wow. My answer is Equinemius St. Brown on day 2 or 3, Dallas Cowboys. So sneaky buy, big guy, replacing Dez, red zone targets. I think that might be a possibility. You
don't think Sutton's going there?
If they keep it in state like they've done with the Baylor guys, yeah, maybe, right?
I mean, they were at his pro day. He was talking with Jason Garrett. He's from Texas originally. He went to school in Texas. He's a big guy. replacing Dez. It makes a lot of sense, honestly.
The reason I don't know is because I think that would require a little bit more draft stock, and I don't know if they're going to address that. Well, yeah, I mean, they need to. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm with you.
All right. I got a converter. Nice.
I'm with you. I like my sneaky Equinemius pick, but
I like that too. Yeah. They could get 2 receivers, to be honest with you.
That's another good point. And then all these sneaky buys we're talking about are completely useless. This is the useless podcast.
Yeah. 40 minutes on Dallas.
So honestly, though, do you guys think that there's a chance that they scoop up Jeremy Maclin for cheap?
He's still out there, yeah. Why not? Veteran presence.
From what I've heard is Jeremy Maclin doesn't really have the heart to play football anymore, and that's kind of been the issue lately.
He's like the new Dwayne Bowe. What's going on with people coming through Kansas City and giving up on football?
It's true.
That's actually a good point. I don't know. I liked Dwayne Bowe a lot early in his career. I really liked him.
I think that's where Andre Rison went to die. It's a relentless thing with Kansas City. Yeah, anyway, Whalen made a really good point. We just spent this was the Dallas Cowboys pod. Every single week we have some sort of random podcast like pilot that we do. Last week was the Masters Golf podcast. This week's the Dallas Cowboys podcast, and there's like 17 Dallas fans that listen to our podcast. They're super happy right now. But for the other 16 people that listen to our podcast, let's cover some other ground so they can be excited here. So the second segment of the podcast, we're going to talk about some rookie tight ends. We'll make this into a little bit of a quicker segment because not everybody's very excited about tight ends, but especially in this year's draft class, I feel like it pales in comparison with last year. But let's talk a little bit about rookie tight ends, starting with Izzy. Izzy, specifically, can you give me your top 2 or 3 tight ends in this draft class and maybe a couple of quick comps?
Oh, so I'm not doing comps with tight ends because they all look the same to me. Like they're all, well, not all, but a lot of them are just.
Are you tight end racist? They all look the same?
Yeah, they're all like big, not like super athletic. Like you could say Tyler Eifert or Kyle Rudolph, and I'd be like, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I can see it. And most of them are like 6'5", like 260, right? 6'5", 6'6", 260. They all move the same. You know, a lot of those guys that are 6'5", 260 do a decent job blocking. Unless you get into, and then everybody that's like 6'1" or 6'2", oh, there's your Aaron Hernandez, there's your Jordan Reed. Yep, okay, I can see it. Right? So, like for me, they're big, lumbering players, and none of them are really super smooth athletes when they get that big. And that's just my opinion. So I won't go with
Martellus Bennett. Okay, we'll just call them all Martellus Bennett.
They're all Martellus Bennett's.
Okay,
I'm good with that. You know, the one guy that I've kind of just always liked is Mark Andrews. So I'm going to stick with him being at the top just because he's not the 25-year-old Hayden Hurst, not the smaller school Dallas Goedert, which I don't think he's a bad player. And then Mike Gesicki, I think is got to be the second just because his athleticism profiles really well in today's game. You know, people look at the blocking as an issue, but he doesn't need to block. Just like Evan Ingram doesn't need to block. Just like Trey Burton doesn't need to block. These guys will be moved around. They are matchup problems. And I think Gesicki, with his size and athleticism, will be a matchup problem once he refines his game. So I think Mark Andrews and Gesicki are my 1 and 2 as of right now.
What would you say is a reasonable spot for them to land in a rookie draft? Are you talking like late seconds? Where are these tight ends going to land? Because last year we had a couple that peaked in the first round. Where are these guys landing this year?
Yeah, I don't think either of these two guys will go in the first round. Interestingly enough, Hayden Hurst is the one that's being talked about as being the top guy, but he's a 25-year-old tight end. 24 turning 25, I believe. So he's 24 turning 25. But tight ends, they take a couple years of NFL experience to turn into something good. Unless you are that pure move tight end right now that's ready to go, like Evan Ingram produced because he had the opportunity. That doesn't happen often. And if Hayden Hurst needs a year or two to produce, then you're looking at a 27-year-old tight end who we're hoping is something special. So it's essentially Trey Burton being inserted now, right? And hoping that he's going to be something good. Go ahead.
Izzy, real quick, just to let you know, I saw this the other day and it just floored me. Jordan Reed is currently still 27 years old. He turns 28 in July.
Yeah,
Is it
he hasn't
insane?
changed. His birthday's on a leap year, so they just haven't given him credit for a birthday for 4 years.
But like, you want to think about, and that's a good point though. Like with the age thing, I mean, it kind of matters with tight ends.
Yeah.
What happened to Hayden Hurst anyway? Was he like JUCO for 2 years and
minor league
redshirted for
baseball.
4? Oh, okay.
Minor league baseball, yeah.
So no school.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I mean, Hayden Hurst is he's really versatile. You know, like they used him in a lot of ways at South Carolina. I mean, he took jet sweeps as a running back.
Wow.
He threw the football. He caught the football. He was in the slot.
He's punted.
He's a pretty versatile guy. And when you want to talk like about a guy that can be a good NFL player, you know, for like a team to help a team, I think that's Hayden Hurst because he's kind of well-rounded. But in terms of like a fantasy aspect, the point of this podcast and people that listen to it, I don't see it with Hayden Hurst. I don't see him being, you know, jumping in that tight end one category, which is where we want guys, you know. And I think that Gesicki, I'm not a huge fan of him, but he's got unbelievable measurables. He's really good at jump balls. He played volleyball, basketball. That's like kind of his thing. Like throw it up to him. He gives me like that Greg Olson-ish, Colby Fleener type, this really long type of a player with a big frame. My number one, guys, is Dallas Goedert. His ball skills are unbelievable. Now, again, he needs a refinement with his route running, separation, things like that. There's also a rumor of like a medical issue with him, but his ball skills are just unbelievable. And when you want to talk about, you know, a guy that's going to produce and getting receptions and, you know, converting first downs and touchdowns in the red zone, I want the guy that's got great hands and unbelievable, you know, ability there. You already talked about Mark Andrews, Izzy. So another guy that I like that's a little bit further down for other people, but I don't know, he's just a guy that, again, if you can grab him late in a draft, he's probably for free even, is Dalton Schultz is a guy, Stanford. I just liked a lot of what I saw in film from him in terms of being a potential as a tight end. But again, it's going to wait a couple of years. So make sure you have deep rosters, or if not, I probably wouldn't even roster him because these guys are going to take a while. But he's got the size, the athletic ability, the hands, the route running, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, overall, I mean, I don't think any of these guys are going to be a round one guy in your rookie drafts. It's probably going to be mid-second before you even think about him anyway. But if there's anyone that I'm rostering, it's going to be Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
He's got some great hands.
I just like Mark Andrews, just to kind of defend why I have Mark Andrews high. I like...
He's my number 2, so
okay.
I'm not like down on him, yeah.
Yeah, I just like that, you know, he... Big 12, not elite competition. I mean, the defenses in Big 12 aren't great, but he played with a solid quarterback. There was a connection there. He played with a NFL caliber quarterback, which people can look at that two ways. They can look at it and say, well, that's because Baker Mayfield made him better. But at the same token, it shows that he could be a viable option for a NFL level quarterback, right? He has the potential to be his go-to or one of his go-to guys, especially in the red zone, so on and so forth. Another thing, the reason why I like Mark Andrews is he's from what I can tell with route running at the tight end position, if we're talking about a good tight end that finds the gaps in zones, space in zones, Mark Andrews does a really good job of that from what I watch. So I see that and I'm like, okay, I can dig that. I can dig that at the next level. And he's athletic enough to be a matchup problem. The thing that might take him off the field is that he's like absolutely worthless in the run game, which same thing with Gesicki. But at this point in time, I think teams know that, and they'll draft him knowing that he's either going to have to develop that part of his game, or they're just not going to even waste their time, and they're going to use him in space.
I mean, and you don't like comps for this, Izzy, as you stated in the beginning, but my comp for Mark Andrews is Jason Witten. Like, there's nothing sexy about his game, but he's just really good at all of the little things, the stemming at the top of his routes, knowledge of defenses and how to sit, you know, in a zone or find that open area, you know, reliable hands. Like, he's going to be that reliable guy, that Witten type of guy. And that's why he's my number 2, because I got it. I think I have like a really high ceiling with his pass catching ability, but Andrews is right there because the other guys, you know, like Gesicki, it's kind of up or down for him. Hurst, I mean, when you want to talk about, I mean, Hurst and Andrews are very similar, in my opinion. When I look at like the body structure and athleticism, like neither of them are an amazing athlete, but Andrews is younger, and Andrews has a lot more production. I mean, his yards per reception is like 15s, 16s. And then you look at Hurst. Hurst is in the 12, 13s. You know what I mean? So like a guy that they didn't threaten down the field at all. Now, again, quarterback plays different, as you had said, but I want the guy that produced more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he almost had 1,000 yards last year as a tight end. That's pretty darn good.
So you guys, wrapping this segment up, my 2 cents is a more strategy-based thing and not name-specific or landing spot-specific, but I'd probably be avoiding tight ends just altogether in this draft. Like what you guys are saying is there's a couple things that you're seeing kind of deep down, you're uncovering some stuff, but it's not enough for me to want to take a chance on a tight end. So if we get down into the second round and there's some of these tight ends available, I might be just more likely to choose one of these top quarterbacks rather than one of these top tight ends, just because I might have a chance to flip that more quickly because tight ends take so much longer. And then there's those satellite running backs like we're talking about. I might be more likely to taking like a Nyheim Hines type of guy and just hope that he can make an impact in the passing game rather than taking a chance on a tight end and sitting on him forever and wasting a roster spot.
Right.
You could just take Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's got pretty good hands.
He should be available. So, he should be available.
Here's the interesting thing, and Nick, you can help us out with this as to why this Hayden Hurst love has come about. So, if you look at then, I had written this down for this podcast because I was going to make a case for Mark Andrews if Nick hated him, and happened to like Hayden Hurst. So
you haven't read The Graduates, Izzy, have you?
I have not read it yet. You didn't give me access, and I don't want to give you money yet.
Why would I give you access?
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I've already paid you. I've bought 3 copies from you because I like it so much. So
no, you haven't.
Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, both ran the same 40, 4.67. Mark Andrews' vertical jump is 31. Hayden Hurst is 31.5. Broad jump, Hayden Hurst 120. Broad jump for Mark Andrews 113. 3-cone 719 for Hurst. Mark Andrews 734. 20-yard shuttle 437 for Hurst. 438 for Mark Andrews. 60-yard shuttle 1239 for Andrews. 1215 for Hurst. I mean, you're talking about negligible athletic discrepancies here. Both big, 6'4" for Hayden Hurst at 250 pounds. Mark Andrews 6'5", 256. Mark Andrews 10.5-inch hands. Nick talking about how good his hands are, big hands. Hayden Hurst 9 3/4. And then you talk about the arm length, which Mark Andrews has over Hayden Hurst, and then the age, which Mark Andrews has the advantage, significant advantage in age. So we look at this, and Nick, help me understand, or help listeners understand, because you might pay a little bit more attention to tight ends than I do, because I really don't, outside of the top 4 or 5. Why is Hayden Hurst getting the love over all these other prospects? Is it purely because he's a decent blocker?
I think that's part of it. I think because NFL teams are looking more at Hurst because they want that well-rounded guy. But I think part of it's groupthink, man. It's so dangerous, the groupthink, because when people start talking about tight ends to start out, early in this process, everyone was all about Dallas Goedert, like, oh, we found the small school guy, it's the trendy, hipster pick. And then it went to Gesicki because Gesicki jumped out of the gym, an unbelievable combine, and which is unbelievable because a lot of draft Twitter is all about the combine. So I'm a little surprised that Gesicki's not getting as much love. And now it's Hurst because it's got to move. It's always just continually got to move. And the production is not there with Hurst. The age is not there with Hurst. He's not an unbelievable athlete or that much better than everyone else. The film-wise, from what I saw, he was my tight end 5. I didn't see it there either. I'm not sure what it is, to be honest with you. Yeah. And honestly, I think sometimes it's people they see one highlight, they see one guy like him, and it just kind of goes from there. Go back and watch Mark Andrews. Go back and watch Dallas Goedert. It will change your mind, hopefully.
So I will ask one thing for the listeners, Hurley. So we talk about tight ends in normal leagues, but I think a lot of leagues are shifting to tight end premium, right? And we're going to be releasing a tight end premium format button at some point in time here in the near future. So can you guys, well, I guess Nick specifically, Nick, so if Dallas Goedert is your 1 in a tight end premium draft, where would you be taking Dallas Goedert, assuming a decent landing spot?
That's a good question. Give me a second.
Okay, I'll answer first so Whalen can have a second.
Okay.
But I'm still in the same camp where I'm not, even in all of my tight end premium leagues, which I'm in 3 new leagues as of like 2 years ago, and they're all tight end premium. I'm still not taking any tight ends because there's just a big group of tight ends after like your tight end 4. And so from like tight end 4 to tight end 20, there's a difference of like 1.5 points per game in tight end premium. So I'm not really going to bump them up too much because I'm just avoiding it.
Okay, so you put almost no. If you're in a tight end premium league, you're probably not going to draft a tight end in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, well, I'm saying outside of like Kelsey and maybe Gronk. I mean, Gronk's starting to slip too, so his value is a little bit. But outside of like Kelsey, Ertz, Gronk, Ingram, I might be avoiding tight ends. Yes, until later rounds. Yes.
So. And again, my pre-combine rankings, I haven't adjusted anything yet because I want to see what happens with the draft, I had Goddard at 14 in PPR regular and bumped him up to 9 in tight end premium. I think that's a bit high. I think I would bump that down even in tight end premium, probably to around 12, I'd say 12, 13.
Okay. It's good information.
But gosh, I just really like him. I mean, I don't know if you guys have the chance to see him yet, but he's got just some special ability to track the football, come down with the receptions. He has no business catching one-handed receptions. I mean, if there's one trait you want from your tight end in your fantasy league, it's unbelievable hands. And that's what he's got.
Yeah.
I love a guy with good hands. That's for sure.
Love it.
Now we're going to follow that with awkward silence. That's wonderful. Speaking of awkward silence, this happens quite a bit in this portion of the podcast because I talk quite a bit. So there's going to be some awkward silence from Nick, Whalen, and Izzy while I read these trades off. It's time for Twitter trades. I'm going to start this first one out with Izzy. This first one was tweeted out by Jeff. Jeff is asking, hot off the press, would you rather have Dez or a 2019 first and second? We'll consider them mids. I know. This is going to be pretty hands down. On Twitter, it was 86% for the picks. Even on the calc, it was 15 to 11 for the picks. I think I go picks. Izzy goes picks. Whalen, could you possibly go Dez here?
I would go with the picks.
Nicely done. Skipping over that one. Next trade was tweeted out by Dynasty Life. This trade is a straight up like pick. It looks like a Dez themed. It's Dez themed Twitter trades. This is kind of fun. So this was tweeted out by Dynasty Life. It's the 105 or the 108 in Dez. So is Dez enough to close that gap between the 108 and 105? On Twitter, after 118 votes, it was 71% for the 108 and Dez, which is kind of a little bit surprising, I guess. Trade calculator was similar, 24 to 19 in favor of the 108 and Dez package. Whalen, you go.
108 and Dez. That's pretty easy because I don't think there's a huge drop off between that tier and a 108, not at least right now. And if you can pick up a Dez, which again, what if Dez lands in some unbelievable situation? You know what I mean? His value would go up, and I think you could easily package Dez to go up further than the 105 if wanted.
Okay, yeah, and there's not, so the context of this league is just 12.5 PPR, so assuming it's a 1 quarterback, I completely agree with Nick. For some reason, the super flex thing wasn't disclosed. I might side with the 105 because you're going to get one of those top quarterbacks sitting in that range, and if you don't, you're going to get a top 4 running back. So I think 105 in a super flex, 108 in Dez in a standard. Izzy, what do you think?
Yeah, 108 in Dez. I that's an easy one for me. I think there's enough upside with Dez and to Nick's point, there's really not a huge gap between 105 and 108. So I look at it and you're getting a borderline free Dez Bryant in this situation.
So just putting some players, because I like the additional context. So like looking at some values and rankings right now, we're talking probably like what do you think? Sony Michel at 105, Whalen?
That's fair.
You think Rojo 104, Sony 105?
Or Cortland Sutton.
There you go. And I mean, here's the good thing. Cortland Sutton might fall down to like the 108 range. So
he did in a draft and I couldn't get him and it was driving me. He went 108 and I couldn't get him I tried Jeffrey.
Right.
I tried.
And that's a good point, Hurley, bringing that up. It's not even about, let's do a little mock of who could be there. It's in all of these drafts, I think once you get past 103, which I think right now, and this isn't like this in every draft, but most drafts, it's Barkley,
Saquon, Guys, Chubb. Yeah.
Yep. So that's the 3. And then 4 through probably 9, I bet the variance amongst every league is got to be incredible. Just you could almost have like 150 combinations of players.
There's a tier there, but you're right.
DJ Moore went 112 in one of my rookie drafts.
Wow.
And I bet he'd go 106 in another or 105 in another.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you guys would put, so it's like Cortland Sutton, and then we got like Penny, Rojo, and Sutton, like all those
Ridley,
Sony, all those guys are in the same tier then, essentially. Yeah. That's a good point. That's kind of fun. Fun exercise. So the next trade was tweeted out by Dr. Aftkings. Dr. Aftkings. Nick Whalen asking you first. This is a little bit different. So it's a 12-team Superflex. So keep that in mind. I guess there's no picks or quarterbacks. It doesn't really matter that much. But would you rather have Kenny Galladay, Rex Burkhead, or Dez Bryant? 241 votes. 60% of Twitter likes Burkhead and Galladay. Got some Galladay hype going on still. The trade calculator has it 11-10 in favor of Dez, so it's a very close trade. So I guess they're both close. You kind of got to break the tie here.
Yeah. So for me, in a non-super flex, I would go with Dez because honestly, at this point, I'm a little off of the Kenny Galladay, like the hype train, because Marvin Jones is a pretty good wide receiver. Golden Tate's a pretty good receiver. What really is the ceiling? Both those guys are there. You know what I mean? And if it doesn't happen this year for Galladay, his price is going to go down dramatically, in my opinion. Burkhead, I'm not playing the game of running backs in New England. So then I go with Dez. If it's super flex, though,
it is.
I'm going with Dez.
Why does the super flex change you? I'm curious.
Because I was just having fun with you. I said non-super flex, I would go with Dez, and super flex, I go with Dez.
Okay. Do you think Dez is gonna like land a quarterback spot somewhere, or?
I think he's got potential.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point he probably would get on a team before Colin Kaepernick would.
He's pulling a Tannehill.
well, if you want to think about it though, Hurley, one of the landing spots I talk about with Dez is Buffalo. So hidden value.
There you go. Very hidden. Izzy, weigh in this trade for us.
Yeah, I agree with Nick.
Okay.
We're agreeing way too much, Izzy, by the way.
Yeah, you're right, man. I'm not a hater, man. You're right.
This one could start a fight. This one should start a fight. Okay. This next trade was tweeted out by Nick Ward. Nick Ward is asking, would you rather have Devontae Parker or a 203 and 204? So a couple of early second round picks. 155 Twitter votes, 64% like the two picks. The trade calculator, similar, 14.5, 10.5 in favor of Devontae. So people like the picks on Twitter. The calc likes Devontae. Izzy, what do you think?
This one's tough. There's so much potential in Miami right now for Parker to take the next step. In a standard league, Parker or 203, 204. You know what? I'd probably take Parker and just roll the dice and hope that this is his year where he decides that. I think it's more desire than anything with Parker, which is the thing that scares me the most about the guy. But the raw potential is there, so I'll roll the dice and take the potential targets, and hopefully I can move him if he has a good start to the season. So I'm probably in the minority. Actually, I know I'm in the minority, so I'll go Parker with shaky confidence.
Wow. Okay, Whalen, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, this isn't an easy trade at all. I mean, it's about how Izzy feels. It's about what my answer is going to be. But I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with the picks just because we've had 3 years now of Parker, and the numbers are kind of regressing, honestly. I mean, his yards per reception's gone downhill. It's went from 19 to 13 to 11.
Jay Cutler.
And Cutler's probably the best quarterback he's had, though. If you want to ask about it. His catch percentage dipped below 60 last year. I mean, I'm sure Landry's gone, but I mean, we don't even know if Adam Gase believes in Parker. He didn't bring him in. You know what I mean? So, and they signed some guys there, if I remember right. So, yeah, I would go with the picks just because he hasn't done it yet, and maybe some rookies will.
All right, last trades of the segment. There's 3 more, so we're going to do them rapid fire. I'm going to ask Izzy one, Whalen one, and then I'll do the final one. How about that? Actually, I'll do this one just so we can finish on you or Izzy here, Whalen.
You're going to take the Josh Gordon one for real?
Okay, I'll give that one. So Izzy, Big Perm tweets out 12-team PPR, 0.25 point per carry. Super flex. It's either a late 19 first and a second and CJ Procise or Josh Gordon. Only 40 votes on Twitter, but 57% like the package. The first, second, and Procise. The trade calculator was a little bit different. Actually, I should say much different. Josh Gordon wins hands down 19-14. Which side do you pick, Izzy?
That's not hands down. That's a mid-second difference.
Yeah, but it's like it's a 3-for-1 thing. So it is hands down.
Yeah, that's true. Procise, take him out. He doesn't even have value to me. So late first.
Well,
and
you
late
don't
second.
think you don't think that's an option right now, though? I mean, there's opportunity in Seattle right now. As much as they're getting rid of their defense and throwing the ball, I mean,
dude, he's made of glass, and I've never been a Procise fan.
But
yeah, no thanks. He gone. I will say so. 2019 first, 2019 second, late. I'll take Gordon.
Izzy takes Gordon on that one. Okay, next trade. I will take this one since Whalen wants the final one. Dynasty Dorks tweets this trade out. It's either AJ Green or the 102, a pretty straightforward trade. 360 votes on Twitter, 56% like the 102. The trade calculator has it 33-28 in favor of AJ Green. And I get to break the tie. So Twitter picks the pick, the calculator picks the player, and you got to go AJ Green. I mean,
well, this is what draft Twitter is right now. Oh my gosh, a draft pick? Give me you have a stud wide receiver. And it's a drop off after the top guy. So now you get your pick of running back that's not a great receiving back or a guy that's going to be great for the next 5 years. But yeah. See, and that's the problem with draft Twitter. They always go with the picks, you know?
Yeah, I mean, three good years with AJ Green versus like a Chubb or a Geis probably being good. I'd rather go with the 3 good years. So, I mean, AJ Green's going to win you a championship, and Chubb and Geis are just maybes right now. So
exactly. Proven over potential.
There you go. Final trade of the podcast. This is tweeted out by Eric. Eric J. Bird asks this of Nick Whalen. Julio Jones or the 107 and Corey Davis. A pretty similar trade actually from the last one, just because it's youth versus proven players. But last trade of the podcast. This was tweeted out by Eric J. Bird. Eric J. Bird's asking Nick Whalen, would you prefer to have Julio Jones or 107 and Corey Davis? 115 votes on Twitter, 63% like the pick and Davis. The trade calculator was right down the middle. Julio Jones 39 and the package 39. Nick Whalen, you got to break the tie here.
It's not good. I'm not really going to be an objective without my guys. In fact, I had someone on Twitter ask me, would I rather have Corey Davis or Cortland Sutton? And I just said, I pass. I can't answer this question.
Ouch.
Honestly, this would be team dependent for me because, I mean, if you're a contender, it's Julio, I think quite easily because, again, the 107 is a maybe right now. I really like Davis. Obviously, I think that he has potential and he flashed at times last year. But again, he still could potentially not hit. And so, you're going to have 3-4 years of Julio Jones being a really good player. However, I'm going to talk my way out. I'm going to talk my way out of this one, actually, JP, because Julio had one humongous game last year, and the rest were kind of disappointments.
Yep.
I'm going to go Corey Davis. That's it. Corey Davis.
And how about if I give you, this is the team, you said it's team dependent for you. And I'm going to give you the context that Eric supplied. So he already has DeAndre, Kenny Golladay, Keenan Allen, and Nelson Aguilar. Then he's thinking about moving Julio to get that youth just to pair up with his DeAndre and Keenan. And what do you think about that, knowing that he's got DeAndre Keenan? Do you think he's better off keeping DeAndre Keenan and Julio together? Or knowing that he can win now, would you rather go for that youth?
I just like how you said youth and you didn't mention Kenny Golladay, so I respect that. I think I would, because think of Hopkins, think of Allen. They're both 25. You can go either way with it. So why have a 29-year-old wide receiver when you can have this? And for me, okay, so again, my bias, that right there, I look at that, that's Sutton and Davis for Julio. So I would do that. I think then you could have those 4 together, plus Golladay and Aguilar, and then you could potentially just have a humongous nucleus.
Or a humongous nucleus. Wow.
Mm.
That's impressive. Well, I might entrench that word combination in my vernacular.
It's trademarked. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
You can pay royalties to thedayreport.com.
I already said that. Moeser, can you strike that from the record so I don't get sued? I don't want to infringe upon anybody's copyright. So that's a very good and awkward spot to stop the podcast. That's the end of Twitter Trades. That's the end of the podcast. Thank you for tuning in once again this week, you guys. Follow us on Twitter at FF Dynasty Trades. Give us a rating and reviewing on iTunes or whatever platform you're listening to us on. You can follow each of us on Twitter. Nick Whalen is @_Nick Whalen. Izzy is @DTC_Izzy E. You can follow myself @DTC_John H. and our producer, John Moeser, @DTC_John Moeser. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week with a special guest covering some more rookies in depth. And as we lead up to the draft, lots of stuff coming out. So check us out. Bye.
This episode is brought to you by Scout Fantasy, home of the Fantasy Football World Championships. Scout is your one-stop shop for expert advice on Dynasty, Redraft, and DFS. Join the Scout Army at scoutfantasysports.com and start your new membership today.